You. The waitress in the back with the tray. Come here now. Alexander Ward's voice cut through the Rosemont Opera House gala. 1,200 guests froze. 3 million viewers watched the live stream. Evelyn Parker was 27 years old. Her hand shook. I'm just, save it. He pulled her into the spotlight, handed her a microphone she never asked for. Let's see if raw talent actually exists or if you're just decoration. He signaled the conductor. Give her La Vendetta Ascendente, the passage that breaks professionals. He leaned close, his mic muted, hers still live. Fail gracefully, sweetheart. The theater held its breath. What happened next didn't just shatter his smile. It detonated everything he'd engineered about himself. Welcome to a world where stories breathe. As you settle in, I wonder, where are you watching from tonight? By the glow of the Christmas tree, perhaps? If these tales find a home with you, consider subscribing. It's the most heartfelt gift a storyteller could receive this season. You. The waitress in the back with the tray. Come here now. Alexander Ward's voice cut through the Rosemont Opera House gala. 1,200 guests froze. 3 million viewers watched the live stream. Evelyn Parker was 27 years old. Her hand shook. I'm just, save it. He pulled her into the spotlight, handed her a microphone she never asked for. Let's see if raw talent actually exists or if you're just decoration. He signaled the conductor. Give her La Vendetta Ascendente, the passage that breaks professionals. He leaned close, his mic muted, hers still live. Fail gracefully, sweetheart. The theater held its breath. What happened next didn't just shatter his smile. It detonated everything he'd engineered about himself. But that moment was still hours away. Earlier that evening, the Rosemont Opera House gleamed like a cathedral built for worship of wealth itself. Marble pillars stretched 30 feet high, veined with gold. Crystal chandeliers dripped light across velvet seats upholstered in crimson and cream. The air smelled of imported perfume, aged whiskey, and the particular arrogance that comes from never hearing the word no. Women wore gowns worth more than cars. Men adjusted cufflinks forged from family crests. Photographers captured arrivals. Security screened guests with silent precision. This wasn't just an opera. It was a coronation of status, repeated annually, where the elite reminded themselves, and everyone watching, exactly who mattered. Evelyn Parker moved through the aisles like a ghost. Black uniform. White apron. Polished shoes that pinched. She carried trays of champagne flute she'd never taste, appetizers she couldn't afford, smiles she didn't feel. Her shoulders ached from the double shift. Her feet throbbed. Her mind cycled through calculations. Rent due Tuesday, mom's medication Wednesday, her brother's school supplies Thursday. She was 27, but exhaustion aged her. Once, she'd loved music. Singing in community choirs, school talent shows, church performances. Her father used to say her voice could make angels jealous. But after his sudden death from an undiagnosed heart condition, music became a luxury she couldn't afford. She traded rehearsals for rent payments, microphones for mop buckets, applause for survival. Now her voice lived only in her chest, silent, buried, forgotten by everyone including herself. Almost everyone. Alexander Ward stood in the private balcony box, watching the theater fill. 39 years old. Perfectly tailored tuxedo. Hair styled with the kind of precision that required professionals. His face was magazine cover handsome, his smile camera ready, his reputation untouchable. Tech billionaire. Opera sponsor. Philanthropist. Visionary. The media called him the man who modernized musical culture. He owned streaming platforms, controlled fundraising, and dictated which careers rose or fell. Every annual gala was his stage, the glittering night where he elevated ordinary people. Translation: humiliated them. He called it exposure. Everyone else called it survival. This year's narrative was already written. Opera needs a savior. Opera needs me. But Ward guarded a secret with vicious desperation. He couldn't actually sing the way he claimed. For years, he performed short sets at private events, demonstrating what he called pitch purity beyond professional training. Critics praised his legendary ear. Guests marveled. His reputation solidified. All of it engineered. Hidden digital enhancement. Pre-recorded vocal layering. Sound engineers paid handsomely for silence. He couldn't hit the notes naturally. Never could. Never would. And he destroyed anyone who threatened exposure. Earlier that afternoon, during final rehearsals, something unexpected happened. Evelyn was refilling water glasses near the orchestra pit when tension spiked. A soprano missed her cue. The conductor stopped. Musicians exchanged nervous glances. The atmosphere felt combustible. Evelyn hummed softly, barely audible, just something to calm herself. A childhood habit. Meaningless. Except sound travels inconveniently in acoustically engineered opera houses. A violinist's bow froze mid-stroke. The second-chair cellist looked up sharply. The sound engineer's head snapped toward her. Even the frustrated soprano paused. Evelyn realized people were staring. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, horrified. "I didn't mean—" "It's fine," the conductor said quietly, but his expression betrayed confusion. She hurried away, mortified. But from the balcony, Alexander Ward had heard everything. Not just sound. Precision. Her pitch wasn't pleasant. It was perfect. Naturally. Effortlessly. Impossibly. Ward's jaw tightened. His fingers curled around the balcony railing. He studied her retreating figure with the focus of a predator identifying prey. She was nobody. A waitress. Invisible. And she'd just demonstrated something that could unravel everything. He smiled slowly. Not with warmth. With calculation. Hours later, the gala reached its pinnacle. The orchestra swelled. The lead soprano delivered a flawless aria. Applause thundered. Cameras captured every angle for the millions watching online. Champagne flowed. Donors preened. Everything proceeded exactly as scripted. Until Alexander Ward stepped onto the stage between acts. The audience hushed immediately. He never interrupted performances unless something significant was planned. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ward began, his voice smooth as silk and twice as dangerous, "tonight we celebrate not just excellence, but possibility." Guests leaned forward. Cameras zoomed in. "I believe," Ward continued, "that extraordinary talent hides in unexpected places." Evelyn, refilling glasses in the back service corridor, felt ice slide down her spine. "You." Ward's arm extended, finger pointing directly into the shadows. "The waitress. Come join us." Spotlight swung violently. The orchestra fell silent. Security moved. Evelyn's tray slipped from her hands. 1,200 pairs of eyes turned. 3 million viewers held their breath. And Alexander Ward smiled like a man who'd already won. The spotlight burned. Evelyn Parker stood center stage, blinded by light so bright it erased the audience into shadows. Her waitress uniform, cheap polyester, copper-stained at the hem, felt like a costume designed specifically for her humiliation. Security had guided her forward with firm hands. 1,200 guests watched in person. 3 million more watched online, the livestream counter climbing by the second. Alexander Ward stood beside her, microphone in hand, smiling like a benevolent god granting miracles to the unworthy. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced warmly, "this young woman represents something I've always believed, that talent doesn't require pedigree. It simply requires courage." The audience murmured approval. Cameras zoomed closer. Ward's publicist nodded from the wings, already drafting the press release. "Billionaire philanthropist elevates working-class voice." Evelyn's throat closed. She knew performance. Not this kind. The other kind. The kind where wealthy people pretended generosity while engineering your destruction for entertainment. Ward turned to her, his expression kind for the cameras, his eyes cold as surgical steel. "What's your name?" "Evelyn Parker," she whispered. The microphone caught it, amplified it across the vast theater. "Evelyn," Ward repeated, as if tasting the syllables. "Have you ever sung professionally?" "No, sir." But you love music. She hesitated. I used to. Perfect. Ward gestured to the conductor. Let's give Evelyn an opportunity she'll never forget. The audience applauded. They thought they were witnessing kindness. Evelyn knew better. Ward leaned closer, his voice dropping below microphone range. I'm choosing La Vendetta Ascendente. Do you know what that is? She shook her head. It's the passage that ended careers, he whispered. Even our lead soprano tonight refused to attempt the full climb. But I believe in you, Evelyn. Just do your best. He stepped back, smile restored, and announced loudly, Maestro, La Vendetta Ascendente. The complete ascension. The conductor's baton froze mid-air. Musicians exchanged horrified glances. The lead soprano in the wings covered her mouth. Someone in the audience gasped. La Vendetta wasn't just difficult. It was operatic mythology. A 6-octave climb requiring impossible breath control, flawless pitch precision across registers most humans couldn't access, and emotional delivery that transformed technical execution into transcendence. Professionals trained for years and still failed. Ward had just handed it to a waitress. The trap was perfect. The orchestra began. Strings whispered ominously. Woodwinds joined, building tension. The melody coiled like a serpent preparing to strike. Evelyn's hands trembled. Sweat traced her spine. Her vision blurred. This is how you disappear, she thought. This is how you become a viral cautionary tale. The waitress who thought she could. The girl who didn't know her place. Then, unbidden, a memory surfaced. She was 8 years old. Church choir practice. Her father sat in the back pew, smiling. Afterward, he'd knelt beside her. Baby girl, you know what makes your voice special. What, Daddy? It doesn't lie. Some people sing with their mouths. You sing with your truth. She'd laugh then, not understanding. But 3 years later, when his heart stopped without warning, when the hospital couldn't save him, when music became something too painful to touch, she'd understood. Her voice carried everything she couldn't say. Another memory. Last month. Her mother, exhausted from double shifts of her own, had caught Evelyn crying over unpaid bills. Evie, her mother had whispered, cupping her face. Don't let anyone write your voice for you. Not poverty. Not fear. Not men who think power makes them gods. Evelyn blinked. The orchestra swelled. The moment arrived. She lifted her head, opened her mouth, and instead of cracking, she sang. The first note emerged pure and controlled, cutting through the theater like light through darkness. Not tentative. Not apologetic. Commanding. The second note climbed higher, her voice shifting registers with seamless precision. The third note shattered expectations. She wasn't struggling to survive the music. She was conquering it. The melody ascended. Evelyn followed effortlessly, her tone crystalline and powerful, each pitch landing with devastating accuracy. She passed the range where the soprano had stopped. The audience leaned forward unconsciously. She kept climbing. Musicians stopped playing their own parts correctly, too stunned to focus. The conductor's baton moved mechanically, his face frozen in disbelief. The lead soprano in the wings sank against the wall, tears streaming. Evelyn hit the notorious 6th-octave transition, the impossible passage that required vocal cords to perform physics-defying acrobatics. She didn't just hit it. She owned it. Her voice soared, unassisted, raw, purely human. No digital enhancement. No studio magic. Just breath, muscle, truth, and something inexplicable that separated technical skill from transcendence. Professionals trained for years and still failed. Ward had just handed it to a waitress. The trap was perfect. The orchestra began. Strings whispered ominously. Woodwinds joined, building tension. The melody coiled like a serpent preparing to strike. Evelyn's hands trembled. Sweat traced her spine. Her vision blurred. This is how you disappear, she thought. This is how you become a viral cautionary tale. The waitress who thought she could. The girl who didn't know her place. Then, unbidden, a memory surfaced. She was 8 years old. Church choir practice. Her father sat in the back pew, smiling. Afterward, he'd knelt beside her. "Baby girl, you know what makes your voice special?" "What, Daddy?" "It doesn't lie. Some people sing with their mouths. You sing with your truth." She'd laugh then, not understanding. But 3 years later, when his heart stopped without warning, when the hospital couldn't save him, when music became something too painful to touch, she'd understood. Her voice carried everything she couldn't say. Another memory. Last month. Her mother, exhausted from double shifts of her own, had caught Evelyn crying over unpaid bills. "Evie," her mother had whispered, cupping her face. "Don't let anyone write your voice for you. Not poverty. Not fear. Not men who think power makes them gods." Evelyn blinked. The orchestra swelled. The moment arrived. She lifted her head, opened her mouth, and instead of cracking, she sang. The first note emerged pure and controlled, cutting through the theater like light through darkness. Not tentative. Not apologetic. Commanding. The second note climbed higher, her voice shifting registers with seamless precision. The third note shattered expectations. She wasn't struggling to survive the music. She was conquering it. The melody ascended. Evelyn followed effortlessly, her tone crystalline and powerful, each pitch landing with devastating accuracy. She passed the range where the soprano had stopped. The audience leaned forward unconsciously. She kept climbing. Musicians stopped playing their own parts correctly, too stunned to focus. The conductor's baton moved mechanically, his face frozen in disbelief. The lead soprano in the wings sank against the wall, tears streaming. Evelyn hit the notorious sixth-octave transition, the impossible passage that required vocal cords to perform physics-defying acrobatics. She didn't just hit it. She owned it. Her voice soared, unassisted, raw, purely human. No digital enhancement. No studio magic. Just breath, muscle, truth, and something inexplicable that separated technical skill from transcendence. The final note hung in the air, a sustained high F that seemed to vibrate the chandeliers themselves. Then silence. Not polite silence. Stunned, paralyzed, reality-questioning silence. Evelyn lowered the microphone, chest heaving, uncertain what had just happened. The theater exploded. People didn't just applaud. They erupted. Standing ovation instantaneous and thunderous. Guests shouted. Critics wept openly. Musicians threw down instruments to clap. The lead soprano rushed on stage, embracing Evelyn like a sister. Cameras captured everything. The livestream chat scrolled too fast to read. Hashtags ignited. #Rosemont Miracle #Evelyn Parker #Impossible Voice. In 17 seconds, the clip was uploaded to 6 platforms. In 3 minutes, it had 500,000 views. In 10 minutes, vocal coaches, opera legends, and sound engineers began analyzing the recording frame by frame. She hit frequencies professionals need years to access, completely natural, no digital layering possible. "I've never heard anything like this." Evelyn stood center stage, overwhelmed, confused, terrified. Alexander Ward stood 3 feet away. His smile had died halfway through her performance. Now his face was a mask, expression carefully neutral, but his eyes betrayed something dangerous. Fury. Fear. Recognition. Because Evelyn Parker, a nobody waitress, had just accomplished something naturally, effortlessly, impossibly. Something Alexander Ward had built an entire reputation claiming he could do. Something he had never, in his entire manufactured life, actually achieved. She'd proven the truth. And truth, Ward knew, destroyed empires. When the applause finally faded, when cameras stopped rolling, when Evelyn was ushered backstage by tearful staff, Alexander Ward pulled out his phone. Typed 3 words to his lawyer. Destroy her. Completely. The war had begun. Evelyn woke to her phone vibrating off the nightstand. 53 missed calls. 217 text messages. Her email inbox overflowed with requests from media outlets she'd only seen on television. Her social media accounts, barely used, mostly forgotten, had exploded with thousands of followers, comments, messages from strangers across the world. Oh my god, you're incredible, can I interview you? Fake. She's a plant. This is what real talent looks like. Her younger brother Chris stood in her bedroom doorway, eyes wide. Evie, you're on the news. Like, every channel. She stumbled to the living room. Her mother sat frozen on the couch, remote clutched in trembling hands. The television screen showed Evelyn's face. Then the performance. Then talking heads debating, analyzing, dissecting. Unprecedented vocal range, questions about authenticity. Alexander Ward responds exclusively, the image cut to Ward. Press suit. Concerned expression. Sitting in his penthouse office, background carefully arranged with awards and philanthropic plaques. I'm heartbroken, Ward said softly, shaking his head. I gave that young woman an opportunity out of genuine belief in elevating ordinary people. But I'm now hearing troubling things. Questions about whether this was staged. Whether she's been trained professionally and lied about her background to create a viral moment at my expense. The interviewer leaned forward sympathetically. You're saying this might have been coordinated. I'm saying I have questions, Ward replied carefully. And I think the public deserves answers about who's manipulating whom. Evelyn's stomach dropped. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered instinctively. Miss Parker. A woman's voice, clipped and professional. I'm calling from Rosemorne Opera House Management. Effective immediately, your employment is terminated. We'll mail your final check. Wait, what? Why? Creating disruption inconsistent with workplace conduct standards. You'll receive documentation. Don't contact us again. Click. Evelyn stared at the phone, numb. Her mother gripped her hand. Baby, what's happening? Within 48 hours, Alexander Ward's machinery ground into full operation. Articles flooded the internet. Waitress's miracle performance raises questions. Stage stunt. Did Evelyn Parker deceive billionaire philanthropist for fame? Experts doubt viral singer's raw talent claims. Anonymous sources. Clearly Ward's publicists planted stories everywhere. Evelyn was a liar. A schemer. A gold digger exploiting a generous man's kindness. The racist undertones weren't even subtle. Urban waitress with suspicious vocal training. Questions about her real background. Welfare fraud suspected. Comment sections became cesspools. Death threats arrived hourly. Someone published her address online. Strangers appeared outside her apartment building, some supportive, most hostile. Her landlord called, voice tight with fear. Miss Parker, I've received complaints. Concerns about safety. Media disruption. I think it's best you find somewhere else. You're evicting me. I'm protecting other tenants. Someone paid you, didn't they? Silence. Then, you have 30 days. Evelyn's hand shook so violently she dropped the phone. Her mother found her sobbing in the bathroom. Chris stood outside, helpless and terrified. Maybe I shouldn't have sung, Evelyn whispered. Maybe I should have just stayed small. Now I've destroyed everything. You could lose your job too because of me. Chris's school. Stop. Her mother's voice cut firm. That man tried to humiliate you publicly. You showed truth. If the world punishes truth, that's the world's sickness, not yours. But truth felt like drowning. Until the cracks in Ward's armor began showing. It started anonymously. A USB drive appeared in a journalist's mailbox. No return address. Just audio files timestamped over 5 years. Recordings of Alexander Ward's legendary private performances, with metadata showing digital enhancement layers, pre-recorded vocal tracks, pitch correction software running in real time. The journalist, a respected investigative reporter named Chen, authenticated the files with 3 independent audio engineers. Then published everything. The savior who couldn't sing. Alexander Ward's decade of digital deception. The article detonated across the industry. More insiders emerged. A sound engineer who'd worked Ward's events for 7 years broke his NDA publicly. He never hit those pitches. Ever. We engineered everything. He threatened to destroy our careers if we talked. I'm done being silent. Opera professionals who'd whispered suspicions for years found courage. A renowned soprano posted, "I was told to never outshine Ward during his demonstrations or I'd lose funding. I stayed quiet. I was wrong. I stand with Evelyn Parker." Another, "Ward blacklisted me when I questioned his vocal claims. The truth is finally free." Musicologists analyzed archived recordings. Vocal coaches published breakdowns. The evidence became overwhelming, undeniable, damning. Alexander Ward had built an empire on manufactured talent he didn't possess. And Evelyn Parker, a waitress with nothing to gain, had accidentally exposed it all. The public narrative flipped violently. Support poured in. A civil rights attorney named Monica Reeves contacted Evelyn personally. "Miss Parker, I'm taking your case pro bono. What Ward is doing is retaliation, intimidation, and defamation. Let me fight for you." Evelyn, exhausted and terrified, whispered, "I can't afford, you don't pay. This isn't about money. This is about stopping powerful men from destroying people who threaten their lives." Donors crowdfunded her living expenses. Opera houses offered performance opportunities. Vocal academies provided scholarships. But Alexander Ward didn't retreat. He filed lawsuits. Defamation. Fraud. Emotional distress. Each designed not to win, but to bury Evelyn in legal fees, court dates, stress. His lawyers sent letters, "Cease all public statements or face further litigation. Your mother's employment may constitute fraud if she benefited from your deception. We're investigating your brother's school records." The threats were endless, creative, vicious. Monica Reeves pushed back hard, filing countersuits, demanding discovery, forcing Ward's team to produce evidence they didn't have. "He's terrified," Monica told Evelyn. "Terrified people lash out. But he's also exposed. That makes him dangerous." Weeks blurred into sleepless nights and courtroom preparation. Evidence mounted on both sides, though Ward's side consisted mostly of manufactured doubt and expensive lawyers. Then the court date arrived. Downtown courthouse. Media circus outside. Protesters holding signs, "Believe Evelyn, Ward equals fraud, protect artists from Billionaire's counter-protesters." Clearly paid, gold digger liar Evelyn stepped from Monica's car, Chris and her mother flanking her. Cameras swarmed. Reporters shouted questions. Alexander Ward arrived in a black SUV, surrounded by attorneys in $1,000 suits. He looked calm, confident, smirking slightly as if this were merely inconvenient theater. Inside, the courtroom filled. Judge Marianne Holloway presided, a woman known for zero tolerance for nonsense and legendary impatience with the wealthy assuming immunity. She gazed coldly across the room as both parties took their seats. "This case," Judge Holloway began icily, "has generated more media spectacle than substance. We're here to determine facts. Not narratives. Not publicity. Facts." Ward's lead attorney stood smoothly. "Your Honor, our position is simple. Miss Parker orchestrated. I'll hear opening statements in order, Mr. Tobias. Sit down." The lawyer sat, jaw tight. Monica Reeves rose. "Your Honor, we'll prove systematic retaliation, defamation, and fraud committed by Mr. Ward to silence a woman who accidentally exposed his decade-long deception." Judge Holloway's expression revealed nothing. "Proceed." Evelyn's hands shook in her lap. Ward's smirk remained fixed. The battle for truth had begun. And only one side had evidence. The courtroom felt like a pressure chamber about to explode. Monica Reeves stood before Judge Holloway, tablet in hand, voice steady as steel. "Your Honor, we'll demonstrate that Alexander Ward constructed a fraudulent public persona, then weaponized his wealth and influence to destroy a young woman whose only crime was possessing the authentic talent he falsely claimed." Ward's lead attorney, Gerald Pachenko, silver-haired, expensive suit, courtroom veteran, rose with practiced confidence. "Your Honor, this is character assassination disguised as justice. Mr. Ward is a decorated philanthropist who gave Miss Parker an opportunity. She's now exploiting that generosity through media manipulation and, Mr. Pachenko," Judge Holloway interrupted coldly, "I asked for evidence, not speeches. Sit down." Pachenko's jaw tightened, but he Saturday. Monica projected the first exhibit onto the courtroom screen. Audio waveforms. Metadata timestamps. Digital layer breakdowns. This is a recording from Mr. Ward's 2019 private performance at the Saint Laurent Gala. He claimed it was a live, unassisted vocal demonstration. She clicked. The waveform separated into color-coded layers. Forensic analysis reveals 6 distinct digital enhancement layers, pre-recorded vocal tracking, and real-time pitch correction software. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Reporters typed furiously. Ward's expression remained neutral, but his knuckles whitened, gripping the table edge. Monica continued. Exhibit B, testimony from sound engineer David Koo, who worked Mr. Ward's events for 7 years. A video deposition played. David Koo, mid-40s, exhausted eyes, spoke carefully. Mr. Ward never sang those pitches naturally. Ever. We were contractual required to engineer his performances using proprietary software. He threatened legal destruction if we disclose this. I watched him humiliate performers who possessed genuine talent while pretending he could match them. He couldn't. He never could. The courtroom went silent. Monica presented contract after contract, NDAs with financial penalty clauses, termination agreements with suspicious severance payments, emails from Ward's team threatening former staff. Then came the opera professionals. Renowned soprano Diane Tessaro testified via video. Ward told me directly to underperform during his demonstration segments or lose grant funding for my academy. I complied. I'm ashamed, but I complied because he controlled too much. Conductor Emil Rostov. I was instructed to adjust orchestral volume to mask Ward's vocal limitations during joint performances. When I questioned this, my contract wasn't renewed. Vocal coach after vocal coach. Audio engineer after audio engineer. The pattern was undeniable. Pachenko objected repeatedly. Hearsay, speculation, irrelevant. Judge Holloway overruled every time, her expression growing icier. Finally, Monica played the critical recording. The one from the night Evelyn sang. Split-screen analysis, Evelyn's performance isolated, then Ward's previous legendary performances compared side by side. An independent acoustic physicist testified, Miss Parker's vocal production shows zero digital manipulation. Pure human biomechanics. The pitch accuracy, breath control, and register transitions are extraordinary but entirely organic. He paused. Mr. Ward's recordings, by contrast, are digitally constructed. They're impressive audio engineering. They're not human vocal performance. The room seemed to stop breathing. Judge Holloway turned slowly toward Alexander Ward. Mr. Ward, stand please. He rose smoothly, confident mask still in place. You've built a reputation on vocal expertise. Multiple witnesses claim you cannot perform what you've claimed. Audio evidence supports their testimony. Judge Holloway's voice dropped to Arctic temperatures. I'm going to offer you an opportunity to prove them wrong. Ward's eyes flickered. Your Honor. Sing for us. Right now. No equipment. No enhancement. Just you and your claimed ability. She gestured to the bailiff. We have a pitch pipe. Choose any of the passages you've publicly claimed to perform. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Pachenko shot to his feet. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Mr. Pachenko, your client has sued Miss Parker for defamation, claiming she damaged his reputation with false implications about his abilities. I'm allowing him to demonstrate those abilities exist, unless you're objecting to evidence that supports your own case. Pachenko sat down, face red. Every eye turned to Alexander Ward. He stood frozen, jaw clenched, hands trembling almost imperceptibly. Mr. Ward. Judge Holloway prompted. Seconds stretched into eternity. Ward's mouth opened. Closed. His breathing quickened. This isn't the proper setting for, you performed in theater before thousands. This is 30 people. Sing, Mr. Ward. His face drained of color. The silence became suffocating. His voice cracked. This is ambush tactics. It's a simple request based on your own claimed expertise. Can you or can you not perform the vocal demonstrations you've built your reputation on? Alexander Ward, tech billionaire, opera kingmaker, self-proclaimed savior of musical culture, stood mute before a courtroom waiting for proof he couldn't provide. Finally, barely audible, "No. Louder please, Mr. Ward." His hand shook. "No. I cannot." Judge Holloway's gavel cracked like thunder. All lawsuits filed by Mr. Ward are dismissed with prejudice. Mr. Ward is ordered to pay Miss Parker's legal fees and issue a public retraction. Furthermore, I'm referring evidence of fraud and witness intimidation to the district attorney for potential criminal investigation. The gavel struck again. "We're adjourned." The courtroom exploded. Reporters rushed out. Cameras swarmed. Ward's legal team surrounded him, hustling him toward the exit as journalists shouted questions he refused to answer. Evelyn sat motionless, tears streaming silently. Monica squeezed her shoulder. "It's over. You won." But the war's end was just the beginning of change. Within weeks, sponsors abandoned Ward's platforms. Streaming services severed partnerships. Opera boards removed his name from buildings. His legendary performances were analyzed publicly, each one exposed as engineered fiction. The humiliation he'd inflicted on others for years finally found him. But more importantly, the industry transformed. Major opera houses implemented new transparency policies. Vocal performances required disclosure of any technical enhancement. Artist contracts included protections against retaliation. Funding bodies established independent review boards. The Alexander Ward authenticity standards became industry law, named ironically after the man who'd violated the most. Evelyn received offers from everywhere. Record labels. Broadway. International opera houses. She declined most. Instead, she accepted a scholarship to the Berklee Conservatory, insisting on formal training. She established the Parker Foundation, providing resources for working-class artists facing retaliation or exploitation. And 6 months later, she returned to the Rosemont Opera House. Not as a waitress. As a performer. The same stage. The same marble pillars. The same velvet seats, but everything felt different now. The audience included her mother, Chris, Monica Reeves, David Koo, the engineers and artists who'd found courage to speak truth. Evelyn stepped into the spotlight wearing a simple gown, holding a microphone she'd chosen herself. No tricks. No enhancements. No billionaires controlling her narrative. She sang an original piece, Small Voice, Big Truth, written about ordinary people who refused to stay silent. Her voice filled the opera house with the same impossible beauty that had started everything. But this time, the standing ovation wasn't for spectacle. It was for integrity. Because the loudest thing Evelyn Parker ever did wasn't hitting impossible pitches. It was refusing to let power rewrite her truth. And in a world obsessed with performance, that authenticity became revolutionary. The cameras captured it all. But for once, Evelyn didn't sing for the millions watching. She sang for the girl she'd been, the one told to stay small, stay quiet, stay invisible. She sang to tell her, you were always enough. Your voice was always worthy. And no one, no billionaire, no system, no fear, gets to decide otherwise. The final note hung in the air like a promise. Then the world stood and applauded the truth. Thank you for sharing this story with me. As the Christmas lights twinkle, remember your subscription isn't just a click. It's a bell that rings out, telling me to keep writing. Don't let the magic end here. Subscribe, let's go into the new year together.